Are you taking a reactive or proactive approach to your taxes? Do you wait until the year is over and hope for the best when tax time comes around? Is your business taking accurate tax deductions and receiving all the tax credits you deserve? Welcome to the Tax Answers Advisor with Marcelino Dodge. Today, we will answer these questions and many more. So sharpen your pencil and take some notes. Now, here is your host, Marcelino Dodge.
It is another beautiful day, and welcome to the Tax Answers Advisor. This is Marcelino Dodge. We are so happy to have you on our number 36 show and keeping on a wonderful ride here. We want to give a big shout out. Really appreciate our international audience in the U.S., Germany, China, and other countries. It's just wonderful that we have such a diverse group of people that listen to this program. And keep in mind that this podcast you can listen to on various platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Any questions come up on any of our prior programs about any tax issues or even what we're talking about today in selling businesses, you can email success@cashtracksfinancial.com. You can give me a call. We can have a free mutual exploration session to help you out. That's at 844-394-4287. Today, we're going to jump into a little bit of actually a very important topic for small business owners or business owners of any type, and that's about looking to sell a business. Understand what you have and do it right. This can cost you millions of dollars if you don't do this right. And we have today, I'm just so excited to have Michelle Seiler Tucker, the founder and CEO of Seiler Tucker Incorporated. She holds a Mergers and Acquisitions Mastery Intermediary. That's an M and AMI. That's a title, as well as the Certified Mergers and Acquisitions Professional, which is a CP and AP, as well as a Certified Senior Business Analyst, a CSBA. A lot of titles, but hey, that's great. That's fantastic. Michelle owns many other businesses, several different industries, a 20-year veteran in the mergers and acquisitions industry, regarded as a leading authority when it comes to buying, selling, fixing, and growing businesses. Her and her firm located in Louisiana. So that tells you right there, she knows what she's doing. Has sold over 1,000 businesses in almost every vertical. So it's very exciting to talk about her latest book, Exit Rich. And we really appreciate and welcome you being here today, Michelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, we're excited. We're, of course, broadcasting on Facebook Live during this program as well. So, and of course, this is if you're listening on the live type, you can always email me, success@cashtracksfinancial.com, and we can try to answer it during the program. Now, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the merger and acquisitions industry, please, Michelle.
Sure. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, even as a little girl. I always tell my mom that I wasn't going to go to work for anybody else. So I've owned many different businesses in different verticals. I did end up breaking my promise to my mom and going to work for corporate America. Xerox actually recruited me. So I went into high volume sales at Xerox, and within 6 months was promoted to regional vice president, over 100 salespeople. And then I learned very quickly that I don't like management in a Fortune 500 corporation because you don't get anything done. So I ended up transitioning out of Xerox and started my own franchise development consulting and sales company. And I was equity partner with different franchisors, but I had so many existing buyers, private equity groups and strategics that kept coming to me and asking me for existing businesses because I was pretty well known in the franchise industry. But I kept saying, no, we don't do that. We don't sell existing businesses. And all of a sudden I'm like, why am I saying no? I should be saying yes. Yes.
Definitely.
So that's really what led me to open up, to start my mergers and acquisitions firm a little over 20 years ago, 1,000 transactions ago. And it's basically because I was listening to what the clients say, and the clients are like, we want existing businesses. And so I also learned a long time ago that what Steve Forbes says is so true, that 80% of businesses on the market will never sell. 80%.
Wow,
That
that's
really
amazing.
should. That's amazing, right, Marcelino? That really should
Yes.
be like a wake-up call, like a slap in the face to business owners, because you have less than a 20% chance of success. And so then I learned a long time ago, if I don't fix these businesses, if I don't grow them, if I don't tweak them, I'm going to starve to death. So I really started a long time ago, helping business owners build the proper infrastructure, helping them fix their business, grow their business, put them on a build to sell plan. And that's when I really became an expert in buying, selling, fixing, and growing businesses. We partner with business owners and invest in, my capital, resources, core competencies in which to fix their business, grow their business, and put them on a build to sell plan. So, like I said, we don't just sell businesses; we buy, sell, fix, grow. Those are our core competencies.
Wow, that's quite a background. Certainly can appreciate your point about Fortune 500 company. Many years ago, I used to work for Pizza Hut, corporate store, and anyway, it was not good. it was not good trying to be a manager and then expecting miracles in a little town where I lived at the time. So anyway, so you wrote your next book, Exit Rich, the second book, Selling Businesses. Why did you feel it was important to write this book?
Yeah, Exit Rich is actually my third book that I wrote. But the reason why I thought it was so important is because I've been noticing everywhere, all across America, the businesses are closing. Businesses are going out of business. And when I wrote my very first book in 2013, Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, I did the research and learned that 90% of all startups would fail within the first 1 to 5 years. That's all common knowledge. We know that. But then when I really started doing the research for Exit Rich to try to educate myself on why so many businesses are going out of business, I was flabbergasted to learn that the business landscape has actually flip-flopped. Now it's only 30% of startups will go out of business, only 30%. So this is a great time for Startup Nation to start your companies. However, here's the startling part. Out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business for 10 years or longer, 70% of them will go out of business. 70%. It used to be that you could be in business 5, 10, 15, 20 years and you're golden. You're going to be in business forever. And, we hear about the public companies all the time in the media. Toys R Us in business 75 years goes out of business. Kmart, Steinmart, JCPenney's was having trouble. Godiva Chocolate closing down 1,500 locations. GNC closing down 900 locations. Disney stores are going out of business. But the media only talks about the public company. They don't talk about the private businesses. And these private business owners are exiting poor. They're selling for pennies on the dollar, closing their business, or even worse, filing bankruptcy. So that's why I wrote Exit Rich, because Exit Rich is not just about selling your business. It's actually about planning your exit from the beginning and building a sellable asset, building a company that buyers will pay top dollar for, that you can maximize value on. And that's why 80% of businesses don't sell, is because the business owner, most entrepreneurs have created a glorified job in which they go to work at every day versus a business that works for them. Buyers aren't buying jobs. Buyers are buying businesses. And then also business owners never think about their exit strategy until a catastrophic event occurs, whether that's internal or external. Internal is health issues, partners disputes, divorce, death. External is this pandemic we're in. The worst time to sell your business is during a catastrophe. You want to sell your business when it's in its prime, when it's doing really, really well. That's when you sell.
Yes. And I really appreciated that point in your book about what you're just talking about, because it is so important to plan going out. That's one of the things that we work on here, is helping ones to plan for their taxes, of course, more so, but still principles are the same. You got to get some planning in there and going. So,
right.
So let's then talk about the different types of businesses, as well as why it's important to know what type of business you have. It seems like an unusual question. Business owners, they should know what type of business they have, but how do you expand on that?
Well, it does sound like a common sense question, right? But common sense is not as common as it once was.
Exactly.
So, in my book, I talk about the 7 types of businesses and to know which one you own. And you can also go to SeilerTuckerAcademy.com, SeilerTuckerAcademy.com, and you can take the quiz what type of business do I own? So I'm not going to get into all 7, but we talk about the one woman, one man show business. This is maybe a real estate broker that really doesn't have a business, that doesn't have any agents, or this could be a hairdresser that really doesn't have any stylist, or even a dentist per se. We had a dentist that came to us, been in business 50 years, one dentist, 3 dental hygienists. The 3 dental hygienists, though, are his daughters.
Oh, my.
And so that's what I call the one woman, one man show, because they don't really own a business. They own a job. And he came to me to sell the business. I said, look, I can sell the business for you. However, we're not going to be able to maximize value. And the price tag, the purchase price, is going to be contingent upon you and your daughter staying on for 2 to 3 years. And he said, well, honey, we're not staying. I said, well, then, honey, you're not selling. So any of these service type businesses too, like AC, electrical, plumbing, construction, etc. If the business is really dependent upon you, then we really don't have a business that we can sell. So that's what I call the one woman, one man type business. And then I also have the dreamer category. The dreamer category is, let's say, do you remember the movie called Field of Dreams?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Build it and they will come. So a lot of people, and this isn't as prevalent as it used to be, but a lot of people would want to leave, corporate America, leave their job and start a business. Let's say they're passionate about a coffee store, and they would go out and start a coffee store. Well, the problem is they're not an entrepreneur. They've never owned their own business before. They don't really do their due diligence. They don't realize that there's 10 other coffee shops in the same block. And that's what I call the dreamer mentality, because they think, well, if I build it, they will come. Well, that's not the case in business. And they might come to you in the beginning, because consumers always want to try things that are new. But if you don't provide excellent service, if you don't run on all 6 cylinders, what we call all 6 Ps, and exit rich, then they're not going to continue to come back. So those are the dreamer businesses, because there's no such thing as build it and they will come. Build it and be prepared to have a lot of working capital and be prepared to market like crazy. And then we have what we call the small type businesses, where these are the restaurants and, ice cream stores and coffee shops and dry cleaners and things like that, where they might have 3 to 10 employees, but the business is still very dependent upon the owner. And then the other type of business that business owners own is what we call middle market, the larger type businesses where they have 50, 100, a couple hundred employees.
Yeah, those are more diverse. They're not just the owners. They build up and they expand and so on. So, yeah, and it's good to understand. I really appreciate you explaining about the different types of businesses. And when we talk about business and you talk about ones going out and starting, I always sit here and think, yeah, they wouldn't have started the business, but did they talk to their tax person before they started their business? That's a part of starting. Everybody's talking about going out and starting a business too, which is most often overlooked as well. In addition to the items you mentioned, that's one of the things I talk about a lot, is that you got to talk to your tax person more so than your banker or your attorney, because that's so many wrong entities I've seen when starting a business. So now let's go into
get all your ducks in a row.
Yeah. So how about the type of businesses or the biggest mistakes you see business owners make there? What are those?
So one of the biggest mistakes that I see business owners make is what I mentioned earlier. And this is why 80% of businesses don't sell, is because business owners don't plan their exit strategy. They don't think about selling until a catastrophic event occurs, or the business is not doing well, or I get calls all the time where business owners they'll say, Michelle, I just can't take it anymore. I can't take the employees anymore. And so so business owners don't think about selling. They don't build a sellable asset. And, they've never had their business evaluated. So the one thing that we talk about in Exit Rich is what we call the STGPS exit model. And the exit model is, like Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind. And so the GPS exit model is all about creating your exit plan now, rather starting your business, buying a business, or even if you've been in business 10, 15, 20 years and you don't have an exit plan, you need to start your exit plan now. Okay. And that's called the GPS exit model. And I can walk through that if you like, or I can walk through the other biggest mistake business owners make is that they don't build the solid infrastructure. They don't build a foundation. Many business owners are focused on sales.
Yeah.
But, if you don't build that solid foundation and you just focus on sales, your empire is going to come crushing down around you because you don't have the infrastructure to support the growth.
Yes, definitely. That's something I've seen with new businesses starting in my area is that all this great stuff, but then they like expand and while they come and they start, and then it's just like they're just not prepared for that initial influx that they're going to have because of the just people coming in. So they're not given the good service there, which is very important from the beginning. And then of course, adding into that, well, maybe we're going to sell later, but then they're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about getting everything up and running there. So then the exit strategy that you mentioned, your STGPS exit model there, maybe we can just run through that, each of these steps a little bit real quickly, just to help the listeners to see why it's important to do that.
Yeah. And I think the listeners should follow along and do this as we go. So we call this the STGPS exit model. So number one, when you want to drive somewhere, Marcelino, what do? You pull out your phone. We used to pull out our maps. Now we pull out our phone.
Actually, I still do.
Oh, you see, now you're the second person that told me that, because I was on another podcast and with a gentleman, he said, Michelle, I still use old fashioned maps. All right, let's just pretend that you're like with the rest of us and you pull out your phone and you go to Google Maps and what's the first thing you have to plug in?
Oh, your destination.
You have to plug in your destination. And if you don't plug in your destination, what happens? Where do you go?
Nowhere, essentially.
Nowhere. And that's what happens to business owners, right? Business owners don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. Most business owners don't have a destination. So they're going nowhere, or they're driving around in circles, or they're driving up and down the financial hills to end up exiting poor. So the first step in a GPS exit model is to figure out what is your destination? What is your end game? What is your desired sales price? And Marcelino, everybody gets hung up on a number. I'm like, just pick a number. You can adjust it along the way. So let's say you want to sell your business for $10 million. Great. We have a number, $10 million. What does a GPS exit model need to know next?
Let's see. What do we got here? Your buyers?
Where you're starting from.
Where you're starting from. Yeah, you start.
What is your current location? In other words, what is your current evaluation? What is your business worth today? And most business owners have never gotten a business evaluation. I talked to a gentleman the other day, been in business 40 years, never had his business evaluated. Now, you're the tax guy, Marcelino. You know that your business is really your most valuable asset. It's shocking to me. It's financial suicide. We go to the doctor once a year to get a physical annual checkup to make sure our heart's still ticking and we're still kicking. We drive our car to the mechanic to get an annual tune-up. But we don't take our most valuable possession, our valuable asset, which is our business, and we don't get an annual valuation checkup. That is financial suicide, because there are events that increase valuations, there are events that decrease valuation. This pandemic is a perfect example of that. So you need to know what your business is worth every year. So let's say you want to sell for $10 million. You're currently worth $2 million. $2 million. The next step is time frame. What is your duration? When do you want to do this in? Let's say you want to do it in 10 years. You want to sell for $10 million. You're worth $2 million. You want to do this in 10 years. Then you need to determine who your buyers going to be. Now, Marcelino, I say buyers and not buyer, because I always have clients that come to me and say, Michelle, I already have the buyer. I just need you to represent me with this one buyer. And I'm always like, no, I won't do it. And I'm like, I won't do it unless you let me market the business at the same time. And the reason for that is because I have to come in and I have to evaluate your business. And I can guarantee your business is probably not operating on all 6 Ps, all 6 cylinders. So then we're going to have to tweak and strengthen your weakest Ps. Then we're going to have to clean your financial house. And most businesses have a financial mess, so we have to clean that up. And then we have to gather all the items and start a data room so that we can start due diligence. That's a tremendous amount of work to do for one buyer. You never want to put all your eggs in one buyer's basket, because the likelihood of that buyer closing on the sale of your business is slim to none. You always want backup buyers. Plus, Marcelino, how can we ever maximize value on the sale of your business if we can't create a bidding war because we have a party of one?
That's
so we
exactly
always,
it.
we always need to be able to create that bidding war, right?
Yes,
so
exactly. You have to.
5 types of buyers, Marcelino. There's
Yes,
5 types. So if you want to sell your business for 10 million, you need to know what types of buyers will be buying your business, right?
Yes, that's what I really appreciated about your book. You go in and talk about those buyers very, very nicely in there.
And I'm going to skim through them real quickly because it's part of the GPS exit model. Okay. So number 1 is first-time buyers. 90% of buyers are first-time buyers. They don't buy $10 million companies. They buy coffee shops and pizzerias and yogurt, stores, dry cleaners, etc. The second type of buyer is turnaround specialists. They buy distressed assets. They don't buy $2 million companies. The third type of buyer is PEGs, private equity groups. Private equity groups buy 2 ways. They buy based on platforms and add-ons. A platform is, let's say they want to get into food manufacturing. They won't even consider your business unless it has at least $3 million in EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. But let's say they're already in the food manufacturing space and they already have that platform, then they'll look at add-ons. Add-ons will look at your business under $1 million in EBITDA. The fourth type of buyer, the buyers that typically pay the highest multiple are strategics and competitors because they're buying synergies that will help catapult their current business to the next level, such as patents, trademarks, contracts. And then the last type of buyer are, I call these storm chasers. These are serial entrepreneurs and they chase EBITDA. They're industry agnostic. So now that you know what types of buyers will be right for your $10 million company, you have to reverse engineer your plan and you have to figure out, okay, well, if I want to sell for $10 million, what's my gross revenues, my COGS, my operating expenses, most importantly, my EBITDA? Where does my EBITDA need to land? If you want to sell for $10 million, your EBITDA needs to be around $1.5 to $2 million, depending upon your synergies. Then the next step is, what are those synergies? What are those characteristics that these buyers, these PEG strategics, competitors, what are they looking for? What will, inspire them to pay top dollar for your business and outbid everyone else? So then you build a suit. It's kind of like when you go into business, when someone starts a business, like, here's my widget, here's my ideal target market. And they build everything to meet their ideal target market specific criteria. Your business is your widget. These buyers are your target market. So you need to build your business to meet their specific criteria. That way, when you're ready to sell, you'll have a sellable asset. And you'll be able to maximize value and exit rich. The last step in this model, Marcelino, is your why. Why do you want to sell for $10 million? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, everybody would.
So your why's got to be powerful enough. It's got to keep you motivated. It's got to keep you weathering all the financial storms. That, my friends, is a GPS exit model.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Now, during that, you brought up about the EBITDA, the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization there. So are we saying here, I just want to are we saying here that the business should be actually paying some taxes, especially if it's like a C corporation? I mean, I just want to try to get a little clear on that.
Yes, businesses pay taxes.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know it seems like a weird question, but you got sometimes some business owners that are some corporations, S corps, partnerships, or whatever, that are, of course, wanting to minimize the taxes they pay, which.
Well, everybody wants to minimize the tax they pay. That's why they have what we call add backs with personal expenses, non-recurring, because they're trying to, decrease their tax liability as much as possible. That's why we look at adjusted EBITDA when we normalize the financials and look at the personal and non-recurring that business owner is running through the company.
Especially if the business owner himself is one of the higher paid employees, like the corporate officers. Does that come into your calculations as well?
It depends. It does come into calculations, but it depends. Does that owner need to stay? They're not going to stay for free.
Yeah.
So if the business is still predicated on that owner and that owner needs to stay with the business, then we're not going to add back that salary. But let's say it's husband and wife, and let's say they're making, $150,000 each salary, and the wife does bookkeeping. Well, we could probably replace the wife for about 35 to 40,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would replace the wife and just add back the difference, but we would
Mm-hmm.
keep the husband's salary because he's not going to stay on for free,
Mm-hmm.
and we would keep their benefits.
Yes. So as you look at your exit strategy here and the different buyers there, does the type of entity it is, whether it's being taxed S Corp, C Corp, partnership, LLC, how do those come in and come into play with the strategy there?
Well, so 90, we work with a lot of different tax strategists. I've been working with a firm that is CPAs and attorneys for a very long time, and they specialize. They are CPAs and attorneys. They are both. And so they work to help decrease tax liability. It just comes into play when you're trying to minimize taxes. So it really depends upon what structure that corporation is. 98% of all sales are asset sales, not stock sales. So if somebody's going to S Corp or C Corp, they're going to start their own entity doing business as that company name in all likelihood. Now, there are larger transactions that could typically be a stock sale only because there are so many proprietary assets that are not transferable.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good to know. And actually, when I've couple of sales that I've dealt with or purchases I've dealt with, it's been asset purchases. Yeah. Instead of stock purchases, because that creates other tax issues when you're dealing with stock purchases. And usually most buyers and sellers don't want to go there. So they just want to get rid of the assets there. So you brought up previously also about the ST6P method and how a business owner can work on using that to maximize their profits when it comes to selling the business there. So can we go ahead and learn what these are, and then of course why they're important?
So the 6Ps are really everything. So yes, they do maximize value, but they also allow you and help you to build a business that is sustainable, to build a business that is scalable. And when you're ready, you actually have a sellable asset. So we'll go through the 6Ps, and I will incorporate the biggest mistakes that business owners make when we go through the 6Ps. All right, so I'll go two birds with one stone here.
Yes, please do that.
One of the biggest mistakes that business owners make is they work in their business, not on their business. They work in their business, not on their business. Many business owners have the mindset that if we want it done right, we have to do it ourselves. Yes. So they have their finger in every pie. Well, those are all big mistakes. None of us are good at everything. Entrepreneurs really have to identify their strengths, focus on their strengths, and hire their weaknesses. Entrepreneurs have to stop thinking that in order, that you have to control everything. You will never grow unless you let go of the control. So entrepreneurs need to work on their business.
Yeah. Delegating is important in a business. I can certainly see the value in that, and where that would be absolutely essential for a business owner to succeed is that, you can't be everywhere all the time.
No, because if you are, then you have a glorified job that you're working yourself crazy in, right? So people is the first P. You don't build a business, you build people, and people build the business. So entrepreneurs have to focus on their strengths, hire their weaknesses, and make sure you put the right people in the right seats. Many times we have the right people, but we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and make somebody something they're not. So we really have to have clean, clear job descriptions and make sure that we have the right people in the right seats, and ask the who question, who opens the door, handles customer service, marketing, legal, accounting, manufacturing, logistics, quality control, environmental, etc. The list goes on and on and on. The clue here is that you should never be next to the who, because we're trying to build the business to run without you. So everybody should list all the who's in their business and assign names next to each who. And make sure you also have that management team in place, because if you're trying to sell a business for $10 million, you're not going to be able to do that unless you have a solid management team in place.
And that's, of course, finding the superhero employees that will be there for you, which the mistake oftentimes when it comes to people I see businesses make, and I'm thinking you'll agree with this, is that sometimes they're wanting only to pay so much to have those people. But to get those people, you do got to be willing to pay a little bit more. But then if you got the right people and make the right selections, you're going to get the returns. Yeah.
But I've also seen the flip side of that, where entrepreneurs pay a lot of money for the right people, and they're trusting but not verifying. They're not inspecting what they expect, and those high paid people are playing and not really working and not really developing, not really, producing results. So you also got to make sure that if you are paying, to get those top notch people, that you're also inspecting what you expect, trust but verify. We had a company that we were selling, and they were paying a COO about $250,000 a year. And the COO was also responsible for, I don't know if CO was the right title. It might not be CO. It might have been chief of marketing. I don't remember. But at any rate, they were also in charge of bringing in new clients. Well, they found out after having, systems in place on their computers, on their devices, that this employee was playing all day. This employee was not working. So you also want to make sure that when you do, put the right people in the right seats, you also got to inspect what you expect. Trust but verify, I always say. So that's people. You're not really going to grow you're not going to grow a business without people. So the second P is product. If you remember correctly, earlier I said out of 27.6 million businesses, those businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer, 70% of them are going out of business. The number one reason for that is lack of aim. AIM is AIM, always innovate and market. Business owners stop innovating, they stop marketing, they become complacent. Toys R Us, 75 years to nothing different. Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix twice, and sat back and did nothing twice. So you have to innovate. Innovation is key. One of the number one reasons that startups are not going out of business like they used to is because so many entrepreneurs are starting businesses to solve problems. They're not starting another coffee shop or another ice cream store. They're starting businesses that actually help solve problems. So the second P is product. That is your product, your service, your industry. You have to ask yourself, is it on the way up or on the way out? Do you have an Amazon and you're in your prime? And if so, that's when you should be selling. Or do you have a Blockbuster and you're about to go bust and about to go out of business? So if you're about to go bust and go out of business, that doesn't mean you just pack up and go home. That means you align yourself with an expert. You get a mentor and you ask yourself these 3 transformational questions. Amazon did this back in the 90s. Ask yourself, what business are you in? Because the business you think you're in is probably not the business you should be in. Amazon said, we're in the book fulfillment business. We fulfill book orders. Second question, what is your core competencies? What do you do better than everyone else? What is your USP, your unique selling proposition? And Amazon said, we do fulfillment better than anyone else. The third obvious question, Marcelino, is what business should we be in? Should.
Yes.
Amazon said, we should be in a fulfillment business, fulfilling orders for people all around the world. Those 3 transformational questions transformed Amazon from a small book fulfillment center to a multi-billion-dollar worldwide conglomerate that they are today. These questions are transformational. In order to grow, you have to get out of being transactional and become transformational. So
that's the direction. That's the direction I see even the tax preparation business going. It's just with all the do-it-yourself options out there, the changes I've seen in 20 years of doing taxes. That's something I've tried to constantly work at doing, is staying innovative, offering services that, like in my area, a lot of tax professionals don't do. And I don't know if they ever will, because I will just call them old school tax professionals. But there's just a lot of things that I know I got to keep doing, which is why I've been transformational over the last year, in particular in what I do in moving toward more of a planning, because too many people are trusting software in the tax business instead of a trusted professional who can really walk them through these things. So I really see the value of what you're talking about, the product or service. You got to keep innovating, got to keep moving forward, because doing it the old way, it may have worked before, but it's not necessarily going to work going forward.
Yep.
So
bottom line is you're either growing or dying. There is no in between. You're growing or dying.
Yeah.
And so then the third P is processes. You will never build a sustainable business that you can scale without processes. Processes are kind of like exit strategy. Business owners don't think about them until something bad in their business happens. Like, oh my gosh, we need a process for that. You need a process before the bad things happen. So you really should design your processes from the beginning. But Marcelino, this is where most business owners get this wrong. Most business owners design processes around their own agenda, around their own agenda. I'll give you an example. Doctor's offices. When are they open? What are their
usually
hours?
during the day, during normal business hours, I would say.
There are normal business hours from 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
9 to 5. If we have to take off from work or we have to leave our company and we should go see the doctor. Does the doctor design his hours around the patient's schedules?
Usually, no, they don't.
Usually never.
Yeah, never. Actually, yeah, you're right. I've never seen it, to come to think of it. Yeah.
We have to start designing. We have to design our processes around the customer experience. Here's another place where your listeners should grab a pen and paper and ask themselves, what do we want our clients to experience? What do we want our clients to experience? Come up with 3 things you want your clients to experience. This is what McDonald's did in 1950s. Did you ever watch the movie The Founder, based upon the McDonald's
I've heard of it, but I don't believe I don't think I've seen it though.
I encourage everyone to watch that movie. It's one of the best movies ever. So back in 1950s, the McDonald's brothers said, we want to start a fast food restaurant because there wasn't any. We want to start a fast food system, a process designed around our customers' experience. And they asked themselves, what do we want our customers to experience? And they said, we want our customers to experience great tasting food that's hot, fast, 30 seconds or less. And even though those processes were designed back in 1950 and tweaked along the way, you can eat at McDonald's anywhere in the world and experience those 3 things.
Yeah.
Great tasting food, especially those French fries. I don't know what they put in those French fries, but they're addictive. And the food is hot and it's delivered 30 seconds or less in most cases. They never said we're going to have superior customer service. They never said the food is going to be healthy or good for you. So we really have to go back to the basics and ask ourselves, what do we want our customers to experience? If we don't create wow experiences for our clients, then our competitors will be happy to do it for us. That's why so many businesses lose market share, because they stop asking their clients, what do you need? What do you want? How can we make it easier for you to do business with us? The company that makes it easiest to do business with them is a company that's winning. Amazon winning because they make it so easy to do business with them. You can practically buy a horse on Amazon and have it delivered in 2 days. So we got to go back to the basics and ask ourselves, what do we want our clients to experience? And if you don't know, start asking your clients, start surveying your customers what they want. So go back to the basics, design your process around your customer experience. Make sure they're productive, efficient, and well documented. A lot of business owners don't even have policy and procedure manuals. When you go to sell that $10 million company, Marcelino, the first thing they're going to ask for, one of the first things is, let me see your employee handbooks. Let me see your non-competes. Let me see your policy and procedure manuals. Let me see your SOP checklist per department. So you got to well paper these processes. And guess what? It's ongoing. Processes never end.
Oh, yeah. They they develop and they adjust and they change, and that's the great thing.
We got to systemize, and McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, our business.
This could be across any business, even service business. I can see where these can apply.
That's
even within
any industry. Every industry has to have these processes, SOP checklist. Yep. All right. So the next P is proprietary. This is the highest value driver of any other P. These are proprietary assets. So let me give you a quick course in valuation. You probably already know this because you're the tax guy, but businesses that have less than $1 million in EBITDA, again, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, will typically trade for a multiple of 1 to 3.5 times EBITDA, depending upon these proprietary assets we're about to talk about. Unless you're a SaaS business. Now, lots of CPAs tell their clients that they're going to get a multiple of revenues. You're not getting a multiple of revenues. Unless you're a SaaS, you're not getting a multiple of revenues. It's a multiple of EBITDA or SDE, but your seller's discretionary earnings, net income, but it's not gross revenues. So businesses that have over $1 million in EBITDA, this is the sweet spot, because there are more buyers for good businesses than there are good businesses to buy. So when you have over $1 million in EBITDA, it typically starts at 4, 5, and up times EBITDA. So proprietary assets can take you from a 5 to 7 to 10. There's 6 pillars here. So it'll take me a little while to explain all 6. Number 1 is branding. The more well-branded your company is, the more I can sell it for, as long as your brand is relevant in the mind of the consumer. Meaning, is anyone paying any money for Blockbuster? Yes?
Yeah. Well, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
The most valuable brand in the world is?
What is it, Amazon or Apple or something like that?
It's Apple, the other A.
The other
Amazon's in the top 10, but Apple's worth $359 billion. Billion.
Wow.
That's, Marcelino, that's just for the brand. That doesn't include the EBITDA, receivables, doesn't include inventory, assets, real estate, anything else. That's just the brand. Build your brand.
Just that little apple there. That little apple sign that you see.
And then trademarks. So trademark your company name, trademark your podcast, your products, your slogan. Here's the biggest mistake that business owners make. Remember, I told you I was going to weave in mistakes with the 6 P's? One of the biggest mistakes they make is they think of a company name, they go to GoDaddy, they get to .com, they're like, yes, I got my .com. And then they go open up, then they go get a state trademark, but they never check the federal database to make sure that name is available federally. Or if you're going to do international business, you need to check internationally. So I've seen business owners in business 5, 10, 15, 20 years, all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter, and they have to stop using that company name. Yes, they hire attorneys. Yes, they throw a lot of money at it. In most cases, they're going to lose unless they can prove that they've had that company name before anyone else. But spend $1,500 to $2,000, protect your company name, make sure you get a federal trademark on your podcast, because you don't want to start the branding process all over again. It's very difficult to brand. And then your products. People forget about getting federal trademarks on your products. We have a company that we're selling between $50 to $60 million. This company has 12 different products. Each product has a federal trademark. Each product has an exclusivity. One's exclusive to Walmart. One's exclusive to Target. So trademark your products. Federal trademark, not just state trademarks, extremely important. Patents. If you got some brilliant inventions, get a patent on that. You know, if you ever watch Shark Tank, every single shark always asks every inventor the same question. Do you have a patent on that? Do you have a patent pending? So make sure you have a patent. We sold a company for $18 million that wasn't making that much money, but they had 18 patents. So patents are extremely valuable. Contracts, Marcelino, contracts are very valuable. Manufacturing, distribution, vendor, franchisor with franchisees. Client contracts are the most valuable of all, especially if you have a reoccurring model, if you have a reoccurring revenue, a subscription model. But here's the mistake that business owners make with contracts. Remember how earlier I said 98% of all sales are asset sales?
Yes, definitely.
I've never seen a business owner get this right. You need a 2-sentence transferability clause in your contract that says this contract is transferable upon the new entity. Because if your buyer is doing an asset sale, and let's say your clients don't agree to consent to transfer, then your deal is going to fall dead in its tracks. Or let's say I have a client that we're working with that has 2,000 clients. 2,000 contracts. They're not going to go after 2,000 clients and ask for consent to transfer, because most business owners don't even want clients to know they're selling. So we got to be proactive and get that language in there. And then databases is another huge synergy that buyers will pay a lot of money for. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp. How much money was WhatsApp making?
I'm not sure at the time, or if they were making any.
Not only were they making none, they were hemorrhaging. But guess what they had, Marcelino? They had a synergy.
A client base.
They had a synergy that Facebook knew they could monetize an ROI. They had 1 billion users. So Facebook paid $19 billion for 1 billion users. So that's what we're talking about right now, is synergies. Another big one is celebrity endorsements. We have a client that has products with Oprah. Strategic will pay a lot of money for that because they want to get their products in front of the queen of everything. Same thing with radio personalities. You know, radio personalities and celebrities can only endorse one vertical at a time. You'll never see a celebrity endorse, 5 different skincare companies or 5 different
yeah.
diet companies.
Mhm.
So radio personalities are very, very valuable. We once sold a skincare company that had some of the top radio personalities and top prime positions on radio. And guess what? Another skincare company can't bump them off. You can't get that spot. That's what we call prime digital real estate. So strategists will pay a lot of money for that. Same thing with my e-commerce businesses. If you're manufacturing pillows and you have the top 3 positions on Wayfair or Amazon or Etsy or eBay, these are proprietary assets that will take your multiples and raise them. Plus, it will also help to create a bidding war because buyers are buying these synergies that will help catapult their current business to the next level.
Yes, definitely. How about the patrons now off of the?
So patrons are your customer or your customer base. And you probably already know this, Marcelino, but most businesses follow the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. You lose a client, you're in big trouble. You know, so a lot of customers a lot of business owners have customer concentration. We once sold an oil manufacturing business. They had 65 to 70% of their revenue tied up with BP. We appraised that business for $9.8 million. We have 550 buyers look at it. We narrowed down to 12 LOIs, letter of intents. But each LOI had contingency language like earnouts, clawbacks, seller financing, etc., all contingent upon that BP contract. And my sellers, one, you know, they were partners, and one was in their 80s, and he's like, "I'm not doing that. You know, if I sell this business, I'm done. And you know, we're not going to lose BP." But buyers were concerned, so they want to mitigate their risk. And so we fortunately found the right buyer. You know, we found that needle in a haystack buyer that has similar products and services, and they have been trying to get into BP for decades and can never get their foot in the door. So they're like, "We don't care about customer concentration. We just want the BP contract so we can get our products in the door." So they outbid everybody else, and they paid $15 million for 70% of the company, which was 129% more than what the business appraised for.
Wow. The value,
and that's why you need an advisor. That's why you must hire an advisor to help maximize value and create bidding wars on the sell of your company. So the last P is profits. We're all in business to make money. But, you know, I have clients that come to me all the time and say, "Michelle, I got a profit problem." Like, no, you don't have a profit problem. Lack of profits is not the problem. I'm always like, "No, you have a process issue. No, you have a people problem." Lack of profits is never the problem. It's a symptom of not operating on one of the other 5 Ps. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes good sense, because all the other Ps will affect that one.
They will affect the profits.
Everything else affects profit there. Yeah.
So if you are operating on all 5 cylinders, this is almost foolproof. You will be profitable, I promise you.
Yes, simplifies that whole process really easy. Just get these in case, and then the last one takes care of itself, essentially.
Right. 1,000%.
Exactly there. So
that's your infrastructure on the 6 Ps. You build your business on the 6 Ps, you'll have a sustainable business that you can scale. And when you're ready, you won't be part of the 80% of businesses that don't sell, because you will have a sellable asset.
And that's what we're trying to help ones today is have a sellable asset. And of course, set out that time frame as we've talked about earlier, plan, work on these areas, and move forward there. So getting into the last few minutes here there, can you just touch on about the business life cycle for a little bit for us here?
Oh, I would love to. I love the business life cycle. So business life cycles follow the same life cycle as a human. When we are born, we're put into an incubator, right? Where do business ideas and concepts go in an incubator? Less than 95% of business concepts ever make it out of the incubator.
Well, yeah, that's true. They a lot of great ideas out there, but they kind of just float right there and never go beyond that point. They
are stuck in the incubator, right? So business ideas that get out of the incubator, us humans that get out of the incubator, we go out of the incubator to newborn phase. What does a newborn need? Do you have children, Marcelino?
I do not have children, but I do know they have a lot of needs as an infant there.
What do they need? They need a lot of money. And they need 24-hour supervision. An infant business needs the same thing, a tremendous amount of money and 24-hour supervision. So then they go from infant to toddler. Toddler, at least they're walking, talking, but have you ever heard of the terrible twos, threes, and fours?
I'm familiar with the terrible twos. A lot of friends I've had describe them to me multiple times, and I've seen a small version of them, I will say.
So taller businesses and taller humans need still 24-hour supervision and a lot of money. And then they go from taller to teenagers. And teenagers, yes, can feed themselves. They can take care of themselves, but they enter those rebellious phase where they don't want to listen to anybody because they think they know it all. They still need supervision, not as much, but they still need supervision and guidance. So does a taller business, and they need a lot of money. Teenagers typically need more money.
Yes.
And so then you go from teenager to young adult. Now, this is where you're starting to figure it all out. You're self-sufficient. You don't need as much supervision. You don't need as much money. And then you go from adult to adult. And adult is when you're in your prime. Let me give you an example. Toys R Us, 2015, did $11.5 billion in revenue. $11.5 billion in revenue. What happens after adult?
Oh, you start, then it starts declining down there.
Starts declining down, then you go to senior citizen. And what business owners don't realize, Marcelino, is this can happen very quickly in business. Not so much in humans, thank goodness, but it happens very quickly in business. So Toys R Us, 2015, $11.5 billion in revenue.
Wow.
2016, they enter senior citizen phase. And they file bankruptcy.
Wow. That's sad.
What comes after senior citizen?
Oh, well, then you die.
Then you die. So we die, right? We die. Businesses die. 2 years later in businesses, it can be very quick like that. 2 years later, after doing $11.5 billion in revenue in 2015, 2 years later in 2017, Toys R Us dies. Not a slow death, a very fast death. They closed 1,500 locations in 35 countries, and they completely die.
Exactly.
Now, in business, and depending upon what you believe in religion, we have a rebirth. So Toys R Us is trying to rebirth itself, and they're like, okay, we need to innovate. Well, you really need to innovate before. But then they started 4 stores, boutique stores. But then the pandemic happened, and now all 4 stores are closed. So they died yet again. So that's the life cycle of a business and a human.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to have to thank you, Michelle, so much for coming in on our program today. We had just a wonderful discussion, and some topics we didn't even get to, because this is such a broad topic on talking about selling a business and doing it right, getting through these processes. You've been fabulous, Michelle. I just thank you so much. And maybe you come visit us again and touch on some of these areas we didn't get into, because this is such a hot topic and so important for
I would love to come back. Can we tell everyone where they can get Exit Rich?
Go real quick.
Real quick. Okay. So Exit Rich, you got to go get Exit Rich. It was endorsed by Steve Forbes, who says the gold mine for entrepreneurs is they leave way too much money on the table. It's an Inc. original. It's a Wall Street Journal bestseller. It's a USA Today bestseller. Sharon Lecter's my co-author, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. And she is a CPA financial literacy expert as well. So you can go to exitrichbook.com if you live in the United States, $24.79 plus shipping. We'll email you the digital download. We'll ship the hardcover to your doorstep. We'll give you a lifetime membership into the Exit Rich Book Club, where you will get video content and documents to operate your business, sell your business, all for your review and download, sample LOIs, purchase agreements, all of that.
Okay. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to talking to you again next week here on the Tax Answers Advisor. That's 9 a.m. Pacific each and every week on Thursdays. This is Marcelino Dodge here on the Voice America Business Channel.